Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Assalamu alaikum, dear students. Our current session focuses on the decline of audiolingual method, a critical assessment. I hope and expect by the end of this session, you would be able to understand the reasons of the decline of audiolingual method. Well, my dear students, audiolingualism reached its period of most widespread use in the 1960s and was applied both to the teaching of foreign languages in the United States and to the teaching of English as a second or foreign language across the globe. But as every language teaching method has its advantages and disadvantages, and as every language teaching method reaches its peak or its height and then it faces a decline or a downfall, same happened to the audiolingual method. And actually, the criticism that was laid against the audiolingual method, it was on two fronts. On the one hand, the theoretical foundations of audiolingualism were attacked as being unsound in terms of both language theory and also the learning theory. On the other hand, the practitioners found that the practical results of the use of audiolingual method in the language teaching classrooms were they fell short of expectations. The expectations were very high, but they could not meet them. Students were often found to be unable to transfer skills acquired through audiolingualism to real communication outside the classroom. Despite all the drill that they would have in the use of structures, when it came to real life experiences, they were not very successful. The learners were not very successful in producing accurate communication patterns. The theoretical attack on audiolingual beliefs resulted from changes in the American linguistic scenario, in the American linguistic theory in the 1960s. The MIT linguist Noam Chomsky rejected the structuralist approach to language description as well as the behaviorist theory of language learning. And according to Chomsky, language is not a habit. So if now it is believed that language is not a habit, the repetitive process, the drill of making it a habit that was used in audiolingual method, it was automatically challenged. Chomsky's theory of transformational grammar proposed that the fundamental properties of language derive from innate aspects of the mind and from how humans process experience through language. So for Chomsky, language was not a behavior forming. Language learning was not a behavior forming process, and language is not something that is a habit. For him, language is a mental process. Also in 1966, Carroll asserts the audiolingual habit theory, which is so prevalent in American foreign language teaching, was perhaps 15 years ago in step with the stir of psychological thinking of that time, but it is no longer abreast of recent developments. So, as times changed, as there were developments in language, as there were developments in psychology, there were changes. It is ripe for major revisions, according to Carroll, particularly in the direction of joining it with some of the better elements of the cognitive code learning theory. The result was that there were, reactions to audiolingual method. Several alternative method proposals appeared in the 1970s that made no claims to any links with mainstream language teaching and second language acquisition research. These included total physical response, secondly, the silent way, and thirdly, the counseling learning. There were many other proposals since then that have reflected developments in general education, such as whole language approach, multiple intelligences approach, neuro-linguistic programming, competency-based language teaching, and cooperative language learning. So, if we look at all these new approaches that were emerging and that in a way were countering audiolingual method, what we can draw as a conclusion is that audiolingualism holds that language learning is like the other forms of learning, like any other learning that takes place through habit forming. And since language is a formal rule-governed system, it can be formally organized to maximize teaching and learning efficiency. Audiolingualism also stresses the mechanical aspect of language teaching and learning through the drill, through the repetitive process. And there are many similarities between situational language teaching and audiolingualism. So, different approaches were emerging. There were certain similarities and certain dissimilarities. In the situational language teaching and audiolingualism, there were certain similarities. The order in which the language skills are introduced and the focus on accuracy through drill and practice show that both these methods, they draw on each other. However, situational language teaching was a development of the earlier direct method. It does not have strong ties to the linguistics and behavioral psychology that characterize audiolingualism. In other words, the language theory, the linguistic theory behind both was different. The similarities of the two methods reflect similar views about the nature of language and of language learning, though these views, in fact, they developed from quite different traditions. Anyhow, to conclude, what I would say is that after experiencing its peak, there was a time when audiolingual method had to face criticism both on the theoretical and on the practical grounds, and its decline started.